We must powder our wigs, that is why so many poor people have no bread. There is nothing better than the encouragement of a good friend. As soon as any man says of the affairs of the state, "What does it matter to me?" the state may be given up for lost. In truth, laws are always useful to those with possessions and harmful to those who have nothing, from which it follows that the social state is advantageous to men only when all possess something and none has too much. I hate books, they only teach us to talk about things we know nothing about. Man was born free, and he is everywhere in chains. Those who think themselves the masters of others are indeed greater slaves than they. Those that are most slow in making a promise are the most faithful in the performance of it. I am not made like any of those I have seen. I venture to believe that I am not made like any of those who are in existence. If I am not better, at least I am different. Civilization is a hopeless race to discover remedies for the evils it produces. Everything is good as it comes from the hands of the maker of the world, but degenerates once it gets into the hands of man. To renounce liberty is to renounce being a man, to surrender the rights of humanity and even its duties. If there were a nation of gods, it would govern itself democratically. A government so perfect is not suited to men. Whenever the last trumpet shall sound, I will present myself before the sovereign judge with this book in my hand, and loudly proclaim, "Thus have I acted, these were my thoughts, such was I." People who know little are usually great talkers, while men who know much say little. Every man having been born free and master of himself, no one else may under any pretext whatever subject him without his consent. To assert that the son of a slave is born a slave is to assert that he is not born a man. It is as if my heart and my brain did not belong to the same person. Feelings come quicker than lightning and fill my soul, but they bring me no illumination, they burn me and dazzle me. In a well-governed state, there are few punishments, not because there are many pardons, but because criminals are rare. It is when a state is in decay that the multitude of crimes is a guarantee of impunity. I feel an indescribable ecstasy and delirium in melting, as it were, into the system of being, in identifying myself with the whole of nature. If we assume man has been corrupted by an artificial civilization, what is the natural state? The state of nature from which he has been removed. Imagine, wandering up and down the forest without industry, without speech, and without home. Let's not be dazzled by the sententious glitter with which error and lying often cover themselves. Society is not created by the crowd, and bodies come together in vain when hearts reject each other. The truly sociable man is more difficult in his relationships than others, those which consist only in false appearances cannot suit him. He prefers to live far from wicked men without thinking about them, than to see them and hate them. He prefers to flee his enemy rather than seek him out to harm him. A person who knows no other society than that of the heart will not seek his society in your circles. Two conflicting types of educational systems spring from these conflicting aims. One is public and common to many, the other private and domestic. If you wish to know what is meant by public education, read Plato's Republic. Those who merely judge books by their titles take this for a treatise on politics, but it is the finest treatise on education ever written. In popular estimation, the Platonic Institute stands for all that is fanciful and unreal. For my own part, one should have thought the system of Lycurgus far more impracticable had he merely committed it to writing. Plato only sought to purge man's heart, Lycurgus turned it from its natural course. The public institute does not and cannot exist, for there is neither country nor patriot. The very words should be struck out of our language. The reason does not concern us at present, so that though I know it I refrain from stating it. Much more naturally than you do, because flight is a much more natural consequence of fear than of hate. He doesn't flee men because he hates them, but because he is afraid of them. He doesn't flee them in order to harm them, but to try to escape the harm they wish to do to him. They, on the contrary, don't seek him through friendship, but through hate. They seek him and he flees from them, just as in the wilderness of Africa, where there are few men and many tigers, the men flee the tigers, the men flee the tigers, and the tigers seek the men. Beings who are so uniquely constituted must necessarily express themselves in other ways than ordinary men. It is impossible that with souls so differently modified, they should not carry over into the expression of their feelings and ideas the stamp of those modifications. Visions are a feeble resource, you will say, against great adversity. Oh sir, these visions may possibly have more reality than all those apparent goods about which men make so much ado, for they never bring a true feeling of happiness to the soul, and those who possess them are equally forced to project themselves into the future for want of finding enjoyments that satisfy them in the present. Complete ignorance with regard to certain matters is perhaps the best thing for children, but let them learn very early what it is impossible to conceal from them permanently. Either their curiosity must never be aroused, or it must be satisfied before the age when it becomes a source of danger. Your conduct towards your pupil in this respect depends greatly on his individual circumstances, the society in which he moves, the position in which he may find himself, etc. Nothing must be left to chance, and if you are not sure of keeping him in ignorance of the difference between the sexes till he is 16, take care you teach him before he is 10. It is a mistake to classify the passions as lawful and unlawful, so as to yield to the one and refuse the other. All alike are good if we are their masters, all alike are bad if we abandon ourselves to them. Nature forbids us to extend our relations beyond the limits of our strength, reason forbids us to want what we cannot get, conscience forbids us, not to be tempted, but to yield to temptation. To feel or not to feel a passion is beyond our control, but we can control ourselves. Every sentiment under our own control is lawful, those which control us are criminal. A man is not guilty if he loves his neighbor's wife, provided he keeps this unhappy passion under the control of the law of duty. He is guilty if he loves his own wife so greatly as to sacrifice everything to that love.